Well, Craig, it's great that you were able to take time and Zoom it with Steve and I. And I think I gave you Steve's background. He's got extensive background in Eastern Europe and Ukraine.
Yeah, he was just telling me a little bit about that. Yeah,
And,
sounds like we probably know some of the same people.
yeah, amazingly, I had no idea when we were working together on the Grand Fondo Steering Committee
Yeah,
that you had such an extensive background over there. Of course, we
yeah,
never.
that's where I got all my nonprofit experience from, was all the leadership training and the conferences that I put on with pastors over in Ukraine.
Give us some background as to how you got involved with Ukraine and
Okay.
how long you've been working there.
Okay, so I was a Russian linguist in the Army from 1988 to 1992. And when I got out of the Army, I felt like God had put it in my heart to use that Russian language training in a way that was going to have some kind of an impact. So at the time, I thought, well, I guess that means I'm supposed to be a missionary. I didn't really know what other options there were, And so I started going to seminary up in Chicago and then transferred down to Dallas. But in 1992, as soon as I got out of the Army, I took my first trip over to Moscow and then down to the Ukraine and met up with a church down there that I built a relationship with through letters back and forth. And that pastor's name is Pavel Marchuk. And that meeting was really the birth of there were just so many things that grew out of that have grown out of that relationship. I consider him one of my closest friends. So that was in 1992. Started taking trips back and forth over there while I was going to school. And then in 1994, I remember we were up late drinking tea one night, and I asked him, I said, Pavel, what's your dream for this city? This was a city of 240,000 people. There are only two small churches there.
Yeah, what city was that, Greg?
Bila Cirkva. It's been on the news lately. It's about 85 kilometers south of Kiev. I saw an ABC correspondent broadcasting from there the other night, and they had gotten some rocket attacks right in the middle of the city just a few days ago. Bila Cirkva. Okay. Bila Cirkva in Ukrainian, Belya Sarkov in Russian. This is how the whole thing got started. I asked him, what do you want to see God do in his city? Because there's only two small churches. And he said, I want to see all the halls, the civic centers, auditoriums filled with people worshiping God. And so we thought, well, let's have a citywide evangelistic campaign. We'll rent out the soccer stadium and use that as momentum to start some church plants. And that's what we did. Robert Coleman, a good Methodist from, I think he went to Asbury. He was my mentor up at Trinity. He's written a bunch of books on discipleship. He came over and helped us with that first pastors conference that we did. So what happened was we held this citywide crusade, rented the soccer stadium, and then we thought, hey, when we're having this big evangelistic event, we don't have enough pastors. We don't have enough people to serve as counselors for people that want to come forward for prayer, that sort of thing. So as an afterthought, we said, hey, let's invite pastors from around the Ukraine to come in and help us. And then we said, hey, once we got these pastors here, they haven't had any training, any seminary. Why don't we put on a conference during the day and then they work at night? And that's what we did. And at the end of that week, the pastors were asking us, hey, when is the next pastors conference going to be? And we hadn't thought of putting another pastors conference on. That was just our way to get some people to come help us with our evangelistic campaign we were doing. But we realized we were hitting on a real need. So we made it an ongoing thing. And I've lost count of how many conferences we've had there. But the caliber of the people that I brought in were first class. Walt Kaiser from Trinity and Gordon Conwell, he came and taught on Old Testament. Robert Coleman came and taught on discipleship. Howard Hendricks came and taught on leadership. Ajit Fernando came and taught on suffering. I mean, just world-class people that were coming in our conferences really built a following. We grew from 84 at that first one to over 500. And then a few years ago, we started a missions conference because we felt like they needed to have a vision for how they can be a sending church. So it just mushroomed and really grew. But it all started with me going over there and meeting with Pavel the first time. So fast forward 30 years, this is starting to happen. And I wired some money to Pavel into an account he had in Warsaw about 3 weeks ago. And then I was going to fly over here to Warsaw to bring in some more cash to get back across the border before the war started. We met here that night. Russia invaded, and we've been here ever since. I'm here with Pavel's family. We've got an Airbnb. And since we're here, we thought, hey, God's put us here for a reason, and there's so many people trying to get across the border, there's so many needs. And we came and networked with a local pastor who's a Ukrainian pastor. He's from Ukraine, but he's been a missionary here in Warsaw, at a church here in Warsaw. Just an incredible guy. So we're working with him and his church and building a network of people that can cooperate together, different ministries, different agencies. Mission Eurasia, Sergei Rakuba is working with us. WeWork gave us free office space. We've got this really nice office space that WeWork just gave us for free for the first 3 months. So it's been amazing to see how everybody's come together, different organizations, to see how they can work smart to meet the overwhelming needs of both the people that are coming across the border and the people that are left behind.
Yeah, so you're physically in Warsaw, and you've been in Warsaw this whole time, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I've made a couple of runs to the border to help some people get when they didn't have transportation when they got to the border and come across. The border's 4.5 hours from here. There are nightmare stories about the border crossings. It's gotten a little better, but we think we're getting ready to get a huge influx again.
Yeah, we've been listening to television, and it would appear that the Russians are trying to hinder any traffic to the border. Do you hear that?
I haven't heard that. Well, I heard some cases of being turned away. It kind of depends on which border crossing they're going to. There's seven different border crossings in Poland, and we get updated reports every morning on the status of those, the amount of traffic at each of the border crossings, so that as people contact us, we can direct them to which border crossing is going to be the fastest for them to get across.
So in your office there that you're working with, roughly how many people are there beside you and Jim?
There's probably 10 or 12, but we just moved into this office on Monday. And so we're putting the word out for other organizations to come and join us. We want to try to build this as much as we can to get other organizations in here so that we can work smart and not duplicate efforts and not leave other things undone, that we don't all show up at the same border crossing and leave some of them, untouched.
Right.
So we want to try to promote this and get the word out. Nobody's trying to promote their own brand. We named this I think it's the Warsaw Coordination Center for Ukraine Relief.
I get you.
No ministry's brand on it. We're all coming together and trying to work together.
And Craig, I know one of the seminaries we support there in Ukraine, we had mentioned that Ukraine Evangelical Theological Seminary, and the pastor that is there is named Tarash. I don't know if that name sounds familiar to you or not.
What's his name?
Tarash Diotlik. We had heard stories from him because he's been working with Ivan out of the seminary there in Kiev as well. And stories of, he had been separated from his wife when this started, and how difficult it's been to try to keep track of the people in his church and the seminary because everyone's going in so many different directions. But he said he vowed he wanted to stay to try to support his people as long as he could. So as far as we know, he's still there in Kiev. Yeah,
there's another guy that we worked with for a long time that's in Kiev, and I contacted him the other day and said, hey, if you want to try and get out, let me know, I'll help. And he said, no, I'm going to stay here and minister under whatever this new reality is that we're going to have here.
Yeah.
So the situation, you're probably aware that no males between 18 and 60 can get out unless there's certain circumstances. If they're a single father or if they've adopted children, there's certain exceptions to it, but basically no men can get out. And so you got a lot of these pastors that are, the conversations they're having these conversations about, trying to get their wife and kids across the border.
Mhm.
And so those are some of the people we've been trying to help. There's a pastor's family over in near the border of Slovenia, I think, that we're trying to help get out.
And I think Tarash had offered that to his wife to leave, and she wanted to stay with him and support him. So
Yeah.
I know families are trying to pull together best they can.
Your activities there, Craig, once the people come across the border, what do you specifically, or your office, what does your office specifically do with these folks?
Yeah, well, there's 7 directions that we're trying to work in. And for us, the number one priority is getting food into the Ukraine. That's why I just came back. I was late getting back over here because I was coming back from a food distribution center where we loaded up a 17-ton truck with food that's going to go across tonight, because there are cities that are without food there right now. And so we've got 3 warehouses set up across the border that we're delivering food to, that are going to be distribution centers where people from different cities will send out people from their churches will come back, bring it back to the church, and the church will distribute it to people in the city. So that's been priority number 1. We've also made a few border runs where we're picking up people to help them get across the border. We've also set up a cafeteria that started yesterday, feeding 150 people a day, and then another kitchen in the church is feeding 100 people a day. We're setting up a kind of a refugee center where people can come to for help with immigration questions, relocation questions. Housing is a big one. Come there and we're going to try to direct them where they can get housing. All the Airbnbs are gone. I mean, I was lucky when I first got here, there were tons of Airbnbs, when you go in there and look, and I grabbed 2 of them. I wish I grabbed more, because now you can't get one. The other thing that we're doing is helping transfer people to other cities. One of the other pastors that was up here a while ago is taking a group to a train station tonight. They're going to catch a train to Berlin. But at the church, we've got this refugee assistance center that we're setting up there. It's providing food, clothing, personal hygiene items, things like that. And they're also helping with trying to provide housing. And for right now, it's temporary housing that's going to go in people's homes because, like I said, the Airbnbs are gone. Hotels are getting hard to get. I had somebody come in the other night I was trying to find a hotel for, and it was very difficult.
Craig, have you heard of a group?
Food is the main thing.
And yeah, speaking of food, have you heard of a group called Mercy Chefs?
I saw something about them the other day. I don't know where I saw it, but I've heard of them.
Yeah, our church here in the Woodlands supports them in a number of disaster areas here in the U.S. And my understanding is they're somewhere up on the border of Ukraine, helping to support, just providing meals, just exactly what you're talking about.
Are these the ones that we see on television where people come across the border and they have food waiting for them, Steve? That's
the type of group they are, right? And our church is supporting them as well, right?
Yeah. So when people give money, when they ask me about giving money, I tell them, hey, most of it's going to be going for food. That's the biggest need we're trying to meet.
Getting back to your organization, in one of your emails, it gave me the impression that your organization is intertwined with many, many others. And I think from your conversation here a minute ago, you're trying to put that together, or probably have already put that together. Can you cover that a little bit, Craig?
Yeah. So what we're doing right now is totally trying to build a coalition of like-minded ministries that want to help the Ukrainian people, both the ones that are in country and the ones that are coming across the border. So one of the guys that got an issue, the other American that's here with Pioneers, one of the things that he's organizing is trauma counseling. He's got a group put together and is building that out to provide trauma counseling, because you can imagine the need for that.
Oh, yeah.
Especially a lot of the women and children. So, like I said, Mission Eurasia is another one that we're working with. Sergei Rakuba is the president. He's a good friend of mine. He's been a key part of helping us put together with this, and he's connected with everybody. So it's just a matter of time. I'm sure we're going to have a lot of other organizations coming in here.
From your perspective right now, from all that you've heard and people that you've talked to, do you have any feeling of an end in sight for this, or is this going to be an ongoing slog on down the road?
In terms of religious freedom,
Yeah,
in Ukraine,
yeah,
you know, if Russia ends up putting a puppet government in there or something like that.
right.
Well, you can just look at what's happened in those two other republics, Donetsk and Lugansk, back in 2014, where pastors were shot. I know 10 pastors were shot and killed. There were a lot more that were beaten and not allowed to put on church services. So the believers there got really creative and started having birthday parties in order to be able to gather. So it'll be a human rights. I mean, the religious freedom. It'll be it's going to be terrible.
So Craig, I know in Eastern Europe, you know, the evangelicals, like we supported the seminaries, are kind of a small number as compared to the whole population, but there are still many other Christian organizations, Eastern Orthodox, Catholic, and so on. Is this turmoil that's going on, are you getting a sense that's helping to bring together as Christians and cross some of the bridges that we have been separated from, and that maybe the evangelicals, the Eastern Orthodox, and the Catholics are finding ways to work together?
Yeah, I think that they are finding ways to work together. From what I've seen, I mean, I can speak to ministry organizations have for sure come together. But what I can say is how open the hearts of the people are right now. I don't know if you saw one of the videos that I had on my posted on Facebook. That's where I'm putting most of my updates because it's the quickest and easiest way for me to put something up. But there's a pastor friend of mine. He's an evangelist from Republic of Georgia. I've known him for probably 25 years. A phenomenal guy. He's really got the gift of evangelism. I brought him over here, and he's been meeting with people. And I had him share a little report the other day, and he talked about, you know, in the past when he would try to talk to people, share with them, share the gospel with them. He's also Gideon when he'd want to give them a New Testament or a Bible. I mean, they didn't want anything to do with it. When you try to give them a Bible, we wasn't interested at all. Now they take it and they embrace it. I mean, they're so grateful that they got that to hang on to, and that their hearts. He's led I don't know how many people to the Lord since he's been here. I think he's led all of his taxi drivers to the Lord. One of his taxi drivers was a Georgian guy that he's become best friends with now. And so he flew back to Republic of Georgia because I told him, hey, there are crowds gathering in Tbilisi that need to hear from you. And so he flew back today. But, you know, he was talking about just how open, incredibly open the hearts of the people are. That, you know, it takes something like this and people turn to God for sure.
Yeah.
So
I've seen, Bill, I don't know if you've seen too on TV, but I've seen reports of churches are just full of people that normally are quite vacant. Yeah.
So I can speak to that too. So this last Sunday in Misha's church, it was they've got a balcony. You couldn't squeeze a frog hair in there. It was so tightly packed. And I was talking to Misha after the service. He said the only time where they've almost had this many people in the church was when Billy Graham preached there in 1980.
I was just thinking of that. Yeah.
Same church building.
Yeah. Yeah.
And at least half of those, if not more, were Ukrainian refugees that had come across.
You know, there's a phrase in the military which you've probably heard, which is there are no atheists in foxholes.
Yeah.
And I think this goes a long way to validate that statement. Let me backtrack just 1 second and give Steve just a quick background here. I first met Craig when he came on the steering committee of the Gran Fondo, Texas. And when he came on, he was the IT guru. He was the one that set up our website. And he also set up, yeah.
So today I was setting up the website for this new coalition. That was what I was working on most of the day.
Is that right?
Yeah, Warsaw Coordination Center for Ukraine aid.
Yeah,
that'll be live hopefully tomorrow. That's what I spent my day doing today.
My experience with Craig was as an IT guy, and this is a side of Craig that we didn't discuss during those meetings, and it's a wonderful site and much bigger than I think. Him setting up an IT business, which was apparently very successful. You worked in the oil fields for a while too, didn't you?
Yeah, last 2 years I was buying right away for some natural gas pipelines, and then that got shut down.
I see.
But what I told somebody last night, Phil, was that I feel like God has been preparing me my whole life for this time right now.
Yes, I can see that.
I would have never known. Yeah, I would have never thought that I would use, some of the technical skills that I have that, didn't really make sense how that came into the picture. But now it's just another tool that I'm able to bring to the table here and help serve this network of pastors and churches that we're trying to bring aid to.
And your linguistic skills, you said that you've been to the Russian training course with the Army. Are you fluent in Russian?
Yeah, I can communicate pretty well. Let me see if one of the pastors is here. Was it? I'm going to introduce you real quick to Pavel, the local pastor I've known for 30 years.
Okay.
I consider him my closest friend.
Craig, I think we can all relate to what you just said about experiences we had when we were younger that you would have no way to know that could come into play at a later date. And I think we've all experienced that. So that's,
yeah.
And I know I have. I'm sure Phil has too.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
This is Pavel Marchuk. He's a pastor of the church in Belya, Ukraine. This is Phil, and this is Steve.
Hi, Pablo.
He can understand a little bit of English.
Oh,
He can
okay.
understand you.
You can.
But if you wanted to ask him what he thinks about the war or what life might be like after the war or that kind of thing, he would have an interesting perspective on that, I'm sure.
Go ahead, Pablo. If you can give us your feeling as to what's going on in Ukraine right now and what you think the future is going to be.
Расскажи им, что там происходит по вашему мнению и что будет на будущее. Как объясняет обстоятельства, которые люди сейчас живут?
Ты знаешь это слово, когда собака больной, и когда он кусает, это опасно потом.
Укусать что?
Если укусит этот больной собака, потом для человека это плохо. Знаете это слово? Вот я думаю про Путина. Это по-украински скажений собака.
Украинский что?
Скажений собака. Это очень больная собака.
Это Украина, больная собака?
Путин.
Путин, больная собака.
Больной, но он остается опасным, даже больной.
Yeah, he's trying to describe it as on собаки, когда он кушает, они станут больными.
Да.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of how to translate that. He's talking about how Putin is like a sick puppy, I guess is a sick dog, and he's trying to spread that sickness to others.
Сегодня я читал новости, он уже использует очень старые ракеты.
He heard on the news today that Putin was using some old rockets.
И оружие он использует еще 60-х годов.
He's using some old weapons from back in the 60s.
И это говорит о том, что Россия, скажем, для нее труднее воевать.
It kind of demonstrates it's becoming more difficult for them to engage in battle, more for them to battle with the weapons with the weapons that they're using right now.
Но при этом они хотят выглядеть героями. Но, да, они хотят остаться героями.
Yeah, but they want to try, they're trying to win. They want to become heroes.
Поэтому сегодня не просто разбомбили роддом в Мариуполе.
So today they bombed a what do you call it, a birthing hospital in Mariupol.
Это было умышленно. Это не случайно попали, они просто его уничтожали.
Yeah, that wasn't an accident. They destroyed that on purpose, intentional. But at the same time, I'm looking at the people in our church back in Belaya Tsarkov.
Я не могу быть там, но
I can't be there.
Я радуюсь, что когда я вижу, как они растут.
But I'm really rejoicing when I talk with him and visit with him. His son is a pastor in his church right now while he's gone. He was just ordained as a pastor, and now he's had to step up in this leadership role. And he's really rejoicing at how the people are really ministering there, how they've really stepped up, and how they're growing, is what he said, through all of this.
И молодые люди, 17-18 лет.
Young people, 17, 18 years old.
Они даже не приходят в церковь и не говорят, дайте ресурсы, мы будем помогать. Они сами ищут какие-то ресурсы, сами стараются найти пищу, принести людям, которых нет.
So they're not coming to the church and say, hey, give us some resources and we'll go distribute. These young people, they're 17, 18 years old, they're going out and looking for the resources. They're going out and trying to find the food themselves. They're taking their own initiative to do this.
Они покупают, они ищут деньги, покупают
they're looking for money,
лекарства,
and they go buy medicine,
приносят больным людям,
take it to some of the sick people that need the medicine,
рассказывают Евангелие, дарят,
share the gospel with them,
дарят Евангелие книгу.
Yeah, and give them a New Testament. They're doing this on their own initiative.
И церковь помогает им.
The church helps them.
И при этом они сами ищут такие возможности.
But they're looking for, they're creating their own opportunities and taking the initiative. So he's really been rejoicing about that, to hear that's happening.
Мне рассказали о нескольких братьях, с которыми я пытался заниматься, пытался делать ученичество.
So there's a group of brothers, a group of guys there that he's been discipling.
И они просто из-за того, что они меня уважали, они проходили. Но я не видел у них реального интереса.
So they would come really to our discipleship group because they knew that I wanted them to be there. This was in the past. They come, out of obligation to me.
И сейчас они говорят, я хочу что-то делать, потому что я не знаю, у меня мало времени, я хочу что-то сделать для Бога.
But now what he's hearing from is, hey, I don't know how much time I've got left. I want to do something significant for God. That's what these guys are telling him. They want to make a difference.
Поэтому я думаю, что да, война это плохо, очень плохо.
Yeah, so the war is bad. It's terrible. There's no doubt about that.
Но в то же самое время Бог через эти обстоятельства сделал
through these same time, through these circumstances,
более сильными.
God makes the Christians are strengthened. Has the opposite effect. They grow stronger.
So Craig, we've got 5 minutes left. So what I'm really hearing, and I think what Phil and I are encouraged by, is what you all are saying, that you've got a horrible, unbelievable situation in your hands with no end in sight, but yet there's hope. And what an encouragement that is. And so I think for me and Phil, if you and Paolo can share with us more of this hope, how we can pray for you, and what else might need to be done that we can support you here. I don't know how that is, but certainly in prayer, I see the hope in a dark space, and God is moving in a tough spot where people are coming together. And I think it would help us to know how to pray for you and encourage you and bring that hope to other people that you're ministering to.
Он верит, что здесь есть свет в темные места. Понял? И люди имеют надежду. Как они можем помолиться для Украины? украинские люди, чтобы эта надежда будет растет.
Это моя лично постоянная молитва, чтобы
What I'm continually praying for
чтобы церковь могла быть светом даже в такой ситуации.
that the church would really be a light through this terrible time, for this darkness that we're going through. The church would shine bright.
Думаю, сейчас люди как никогда нуждаются в этом свете. Сейчас люди как никогда раньше готовы.
People like never before are open to the gospel. We just need to shine for them so they can see it and communicate it to them.
Один пример.
One example.
Оксана, жена Сергея.
His daughter-in-law that's married to his son, they're back in Belya Circle, pastoring the church. His daughter-in-law.
Она пыталась построить отношения с соседкой.
She had tried before to build relationships with the neighbors.
И это очень богатые люди.
These are some very wealthy people that live near them.
Они даже не хотели здороваться.
They didn't even want to say hello in the past. I mean, they wouldn't even really give her a common greeting, you know.
И когда началась война,
but when the war started,
однажды Оксана стала говорить с ней.
Oksana started to talk to him.
И она сказала, что у нее закончилось лекарство.
And they told her, this neighbor told him they'd run out of medicine.
И потом Оксана пришла, взяла, у нее было это лекарство, они принимают одинаковое лекарство.
Yeah, Oksana brought him the same kind of medicine that she had. She brought it to him.
Поделилась с ней. Она обнимала, и сейчас она обнимала Оксану, и сейчас она как сестра.
She hugged her like a sister.
И я думаю, это как раз то, как церковь может служить этим людям, чтобы показать, кто есть наш Бог, что Бог таким образом может проявлять любовь.
And it's in this way that the church really has an opportunity to show God's love to the people here.
И поэтому это моя молитва, чтобы те люди, которые остались в Украине, кто не уехал, христиане,
so those people that are left back in the Ukraine,
чтобы они продолжали там светить.
That they would continue to shine like that, to shine brightly. That's my prayer.
И второе, о чем я постоянно молюсь, чтобы Бог давал мудрости пасторам.
And secondly, that God would give wisdom to the pastors.
Как направлять, как помочь
how to guide the people, how to encourage
людям
them,
в церкви служить неверующим.
To serve the people there that aren't believers, how the pastors would have wisdom and encouraging the believers.
И третье,
thirdly,
это люди, которые уехали из Украины.
Third, for the people that have crossed the border out of the Ukraine.
Я молюсь, чтобы с ними стало то, что случилось с людьми, которые убежали с Иерусалима, когда Саул гнал их.
The same would be true for them as when the people left Jerusalem.
Когда Саул гнал.
Саул,
Павел взял и убивал их, и начали сильные гонения, и они потом разбежались.
When the persecution broke out against them, how the gospel spread through that diaspora, that the same gospel would spread through these Ukrainians as they leave.
Okay, hey, Craig, maybe we could take this last minute for you to give us some information about how we as individuals and collectively as a Sunday school class can help you. Either we know that we're praying, but is there some materialistic things that you need that we can provide?
Yeah, well, right now the two biggest things are prayer and money. For people that want to give, they can go to my website, and there's instructions there how they can give to get money to us here in Poland the quickest. And that's I've got the instructions written on there if anybody wants to go to cldi.org. The instructions are there for giving.